Injury reports across the SEC. Nico Iamaleava, DJ Lagway, Q Robinson, and much more. Locked On SEC starts right now.
You are Locked On SEC, your daily podcast on the Southeastern Conference. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And what's up, everybody? Welcome into Locked On SEC. It's great to have you guys along. I'm Chris Gordy. Thanks for making Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, covering your team every day. Today's episode presented to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. Visit FanDuel.com today to get started. All right, we got plenty to discuss, plenty we got to get into, so let's dive right into it. Let's go around the conference.
Boots out to the right. Takes the handoff. What a catch!
Around the conference.
We start over at Tennessee as Josh Heupel speaking with the media yesterday. Right out of the gates, people want to know what's up with your quarterback, Nico Iamaleava, leaving the game last Saturday, and Tennessee's got a big one this week as they head to Athens to take on the Georgia Bulldogs. And Heupel addressing Nico and his availability, telling reporters he expects Iamaleava to be fine for the Georgia game. Quote, "He was with us today, had a really good day. Feel like he'll be in great shape for Saturday, but you guys can monitor whatever the report is that comes out on Wednesday and track it throughout the week. But certainly feel like he is in a good spot." Now, the senior backup, Gaston Moore, came in to replace Iamaleava in the second half. Did fine, 5 of 8, passing for 38 yards. Did not turn the ball over. And the Vols cruised to a 33-14 win over Mississippi State to improve to 8-1. But next question to Josh Heupel was about Gaston Moore. He said, look, Gaston's getting reps throughout the course of practice every day, every week. That's why he went out and played the way he did on Saturday. So feel good about the backup, but look, we know if Tennessee's going to pull off the win against Georgia, they need Iamaleava to do it. By the way, he did leave the game with an upper body injury. Took a hard hit on a running play, then took another hit on an incomplete pass in the second quarter. So, again, certainly something we're going to watch. Like I said, Vols need him this weekend to complement that dominant run game with Dylan Sampson. Now, on the other side of things, Kirby Smart and the Georgia Bulldogs, they took a loss to somebody not named Alabama. That was rare. But Georgia's had some big games already this weekend. They played at Alabama in September. They went to Texas in October. They won that one. And then the game at Ole Miss this past weekend, which they lost. And on the third Saturday in November, the Bulldogs will have a chance to play another big one. But this time, it is at home between the hedges in Athens. And Kirby Smart saying during his weekly press conference on Monday, thank God this one's at home. It's all those games on the road at Bama, at Texas, at Ole Miss. Schedule makers did them no favors. Bulldogs now 7-2. No margin for error. They have to win this one. ESPN's FPI matchup predictor, they're picking Georgia in this one, giving the Bulldogs a 61.7% chance to beat the Vols. Tennessee's defense, very good. Georgia's offense, not been good lately. Carson Beck turning the ball over a lot. They were not very efficient in Oxford on Saturday. And Kirby Smart, asked about his quarterback by the media, he pushed back on the idea that they might make a change. Some folks writing and asking, should they give backup quarterback Gunnar Stockton a look? Kirby Smart saying, absolutely not. We've got the quarterback we've got who's completely competent, capable, and understanding our system, gives us the best chance to win. Kirby saying of their offensive struggles, look, we've played some really good defenses. And he's right. But certainly that offense is going to have to click well against Tennessee this weekend. All right, other injury news. Over at Florida, DJ Lagway, Billy Napier, and the Gators coming off a tough weekend where they were dominated by the Texas Longhorns in Austin. They did not have DJ Lagway. They sent out their Yale transfer, Aiden Warner, and it was 35-0 Texas at the half. Texas ended up winning 49-17. But DJ Lagway got banged up 2 weeks ago in that Georgia game. He's playing very well. They had the lead on Georgia when he left that game. But coming back home to face LSU this weekend, Billy Napier giving an update on Lagway. He said, quote, worked him out this morning. We felt good about what we saw. Does that mean he's 100%? It's day to day. So the Gators at 4-5 now have to win 2 of their last 3 games in order to become bowl eligible. They get these next 2 games against ranked opponents at home. LSU this weekend and Ole Miss the week after. Now LSU's coming off a drubbing at home at the hands of Alabama. You know, they want to bounce back and get a win in a bad way. But of course, LSU and Ole Miss, both ranked teams. Then they will take on Florida State on the road in the finale. And I actually feel good about the Gators in that one, especially if they have DJ Lagway back. But to beat LSU this weekend, I don't know if they can do it with Aiden Warner. They have DJ Lagway. They certainly will have a chance to beat LSU, no doubt. Over at Missouri, they lost their center, Connor Tolson, for the remainder of the season. Suffered injury in the game against Oklahoma this past weekend. Pete Thamel noting Tolson is regarded as one of the nation's best centers. Extremely experienced player, has 34 starts in his career for the Tigers, and very high on people's draft boards as well. So not a great injury, a knee injury is what he is dealing with, and a big loss as they're hoping to get quarterback Brady Cook back. He missed this past game. Drew Pine got the start, but Missouri's offense averaged just 3.8 yards per play in the win over Oklahoma, and now you lose your starting center. Not great news. In other SEC news, the conference announcing hefty fines for Ole Miss and LSU for fan-related behavior this past week. Ole Miss, they were fined a total of $350,000 after fans rushed the field on Saturday night after their upset win of Georgia. They will pay a $250,000 fine for the field storming and then an additional $100,000 penalty because fans entered the playing field before the game ended. So a little bit of a false start there on the fans trying to rush the field. But the league says Ole Miss, also a multi-time offender of the policy, as fans also rushed the field after they went over LSU last season. As for LSU, they were fined $250,000 for fans throwing debris on the field in protest of a call in their loss to Alabama on Saturday night. The SEC announcement also said LSU will be required to use all available resources to identify fans who threw the debris onto the playing field, similar to what they told Texas a couple weeks ago in that loss to Georgia, where they threw all the debris on the field. But hey, they got a call overturned doing it at Texas. They didn't overturn anything in the LSU-Alabama game. But per SEC policy, Ole Miss's fine will be paid directly to Georgia. LSU's fine will be paid out to the SEC's postgraduate scholarship program, according to the announcement. And one other note here, injury note rather, at Alabama, linebacker Q Robinson is going to miss the rest of the season after suffering an upper body injury in the win over LSU. And tough break there, as he is a former 4-star recruit, 4 sacks in 2024, team's co-leader with Jahad Campbell, also second on the team with 7 tackles for a loss, was really starting to grow in that role last year, and became a starter in that linebacker core. And so looks like his career comes to an end for the Tide. Tough news there. One other note on Alabama, Tyler Booker, big offensive lineman, he was on the Next Round show yesterday and was asked about the win over Alabama or win over LSU. He said, we just have to make sure we are playing Alabama football down the stretch. It's something we've been preaching from the jump, but now time has gone by. We pumped our head twice earlier in the year. We touched the stove twice, and we really believe it. No falling subject to the rat poison now. We know we have to play Alabama football. So a little hearkening back to the old Nick Saban line about buying the rat poison or eating rat poison, whatever it was. But nonetheless, Tyler Booker and the Tide, they look focused, man. They got a nice, easy stretch here to finish out the season. Well, we'll see if Oklahoma puts up any fight against them, and, of course, Auburn in the Iron Bowl. But sets up well for Alabama, certainly. All right, thank you guys for making Locked On at SEC your first listen every day. Coming up next, we got some more news going on around the conference, including rumors of Mark Stoops at Kentucky maybe retiring. We'll get to that in just a second. Well, first, I remind you guys today's episode presented to you by our friends over at Roy. And SEC fans, listen up. You need to download the Roy app. You've heard us talk about Roy this season and how they're revolutionizing the NIL industry. Roy allows you, the fan, to have a say in who gets NIL money. And here's what we love about Roy. You get your money back if that player transfers. Roy is helping us keep our teams intact, and it's actually good for the game long term. And just this past Saturday, Alabama quarterback Jalen Milroe showed off his ridiculous athleticism yet again for the second season in a row, gashing LSU's defense for 4 rushing touchdowns. If you want to show your support for Jalen Milroe by depositing a little appreciation onto his player's account, you can do that by downloading the Roy app. You can see what the logo looks like. If you're watching on YouTube, just go to joinroy.com. And again, our Roy Locked On Player of the Week, Jalen Milroe, throwing some money into his account on Roy. Every contribution counts, $10, $20. It all adds up, and it's going to help your favorite player stay put. Join me and show some love for Jalen Milroe. Download the Roy app or go to joinroy.com today. Use our promo code Locked On. Every athlete from every team is there. No purchase necessary. Void where prohibited. Go to joinroy.com for full terms. Roy, support the players and change the game. All right, continue on here. Locked On SEC. Thank you guys for making us your first listen every day. Some interesting rumors abound, so let's dive back into it as we continue going around the conference. So we jump over to Kentucky as Mark Stoops, a little bit of an interesting question thrown his way, and he brushed to the side. Mark Stoops, the longest tenured head coach in the SEC. He's been at Kentucky since 2013, so over a decade, and he's won a lot of games there, 66 wins, but has lost 71 games as well. And this season, it's been a tough one. Kentucky's sitting at 3-6. They've lost 4 in a row. They were 1-6 in the conference. They do get Murray State this weekend. They should win that one. But on Monday, Mark Stoops talking with the media, and he was asked directly about speculation and rumors out there that he might step down at the end of the season, perhaps retiring. There's been some rumors about maybe Sam Pittman could do that at Arkansas as well. Our buddy John Neighbors, Locked On Razorbacks, has kind of been pushing that one. But yeah, maybe just internet rumors or whatever. But Mark Stoops, just 57. It's not like he's super old. But Mark Stoops answering saying 0% chance I do that. Next question. Whenever a coach says next question, usually means they're very angry about that question. But we'll see what happens. Obviously, they'll get Murray State. And then they got to go to Texas and play this juggernaut Longhorns team before they finish with Louisville. But this is one they absolutely need to win. It'll just be their 4th win. And obviously they got to win out to get to or really guarantee bowl eligibility. I guess 5-7, there's a chance you can get a invite to a bowl, but 6-6 is always the bar. But look, he's had, what is it? Like 8 straight seasons of getting to a bowl game. That's an accomplishment for the standard at Kentucky. I mean, they had a drought there for a while. So, but it's going to be the first time since 2015, almost a decade since Kentucky has missed a bowl game. But kind of interesting that at least those rumors getting floated out there. Mark Stoops, would you consider retiring at the end of the year? 0% chance I do that. 0% chance I do that. Next question. So yeah, I think he'll be back in Lexington if they'll have him, right? Pretty big buyout for him if they wanted to move on. All right, over at LSU, Brian Kelly still dealing with the loss at the hands of Alabama over the weekend. Paul Feinbaum addressing it on multiple fronts on the McElroy and Kublik show on Monday in Birmingham. Question was, is Brian Kelly now past the point of no return with LSU fans? And Paul Feinbaum saying, I think that description is accurate. Whether he's past the point of no return with the fringe, I don't think matters. This team does not look like a playoff team, and I don't really see how they're going to come back from it. So what you're going to hear Brian Kelly talk about now is winning 10 games, win a bowl, with a bowl win. That's not enough to satisfy LSU fans, but it will be enough for him to get to next season and hope then to make a more serious run at the playoff. There's always going to be an overreaction, but he's not going to get some of those fans back, and it really doesn't matter. He went on to say, I think he's an elite coach whose game plan Saturday night did not work. There's nothing you could say to sugarcoat a simply embarrassing and ghastly performance by LSU. But in terms of running Brian Kelly out of town, I think that's a little bit of a ridiculous conclusion. I tend to agree. Look, Brian Kelly, he's a really good coach. I know some people just don't like him, period, and they're always going to say, oh, he's a fraud, he's a fake, whatever. The guy wins. He wins a lot. Now, the question is, can he get over the hump and win a national championship at LSU? That's going to be the tough part. People always bring up Kalen DeBoer's resume. Oh, he's a winner everywhere he's been. Look at Brian Kelly's resume. I mean, Brian Kelly kind of did the same thing Kalen DeBoer did at the lower level. People always like to bring up, Kalen DeBoer's tenure at Sioux Falls and what he did there. Only a head coach for 5 years at Sioux Falls. Brian Kelly was a head coach at Grand Valley State for like 8 years. Or no, it was like a decade, right? It was 91 through 2003. Won 2 Division II championships there. Then went to Central Michigan, finished 9-4 his last season there. Then went to Cincinnati, had a 10-3 season, an 11-3 season, then a 12-0 season, getting to the Sugar Bowl. Then a decade at Notre Dame, where he went 8-5 out of the gates, got to the national championship game in year 3, where they lost Alabama, but then went on to win, 10-3 in 2015, 10-3 in 2017, 12-1, 11-2, 10-2. 11-1 his last season at Notre Dame, and then his first 2 seasons at LSU, 10-4, 10-3, and now they're sitting at 6-3. If they can win out and win a bowl game, that's another 10-3 season. That's not bad. That's not a bad coach. I think Auburn and Hugh Freeze wouldn't take that right about now. Sam Pittman in Arkansas. There's a lot of average coaches out there right now in the SEC. Brian Kelly is in the upper tier, but again, he's got to get over that hump. And you go back and look at what coaches did in their tenure there. Nick Saban, by year 4 at LSU, was winning a national championship. And year 3 kind of laid the foundation for it. Same thing with Ed Ogeron. If you count his first year as that interim year where he took over for the fired Les Miles, that was kind of year 1. By year 4, he was winning the national championship with Joe Burrow. Les Miles, he did it by year 3. Granted, the cupboard was stocked with Saban's talent, but he still recruited at a high level, laid the foundation, and by year 3 won a national championship. So we've seen the last 3 coaches at LSU, by year 3, year 4, they're winning a championship. Brian Kelly, not going to do it here in year 3. Can he do it in year 4? That's the big question. And at least from a certain perspective, you wonder, can they bring back, Garrett Noire, that performance we saw the other night? Will that make him go, you know what? I'm not ready for the NFL. Or scouts may say, we don't think you're ready for the NFL, and say, all right, I got to come back. Try this thing again. But LSU certainly got to look, if they got to get the bad taste in their mouth, and they got to go play well at Florida. There's no doubt. If they lose this one, if you lose to Billy Napier this season, then you really got some egg on your face for Brian Kelly. This thing's really heading the wrong direction. You got to look at your staff and go, do I have the right people here? More on that in just a second. But over at Alabama, Jalen Milroe named SEC Player of the Week. In fact, the SEC releasing their Week 11 Players of the Week. Offensive Players of the Week, it was Jalen Milroe at Alabama. Rocket Sanders, the running back at South Carolina. Defensive Players of the Week, Jahad Campbell, Alabama linebacker. Tristan Newsom, Mizzou linebacker. Special Teams Player of the Week was Caden Davis, the kicker at Ole Miss, who made all those kicks against Georgia. O-lineman of the week, Tyler Booker at Alabama. Torricelli Simpkins at the guard at South Carolina. Defensive lineman, Jared Ivey at Ole Miss, and Princey Umanmielen at Ole Miss. Not very often do you see 2 dudes at one school who play the same position named defensive lineman of the week, but pretty cool stuff there. And your freshman of the week was Lenore Sellers for South Carolina. That kid is going to be awesome for the next couple years at South Carolina. Another news tidbit here over at Texas. They are preparing for their upcoming rivalry matchup against Arkansas. And Steve Sarkisian telling the media yesterday, we really can only control what we can control. And he said, in reality, if we want to get to where we want to get, that's an SEC championship game, we have to win on Saturday. He said we have to view Saturday against Arkansas as if it's an SEC championship game. So kind of interesting perspective from Sark, but hey, hype this one up. You got to get up for Arkansas. It's a road trip, and this is what makes the SEC tough, man. You got to get up each and every week, even for a game that looks like on paper, oh, you shouldn't have any trouble with them. Petrino calling plays on the other side is no cakewalk. Over at Ole Miss, some Lane Kiffin news. Obviously got a big win over Georgia, and on Monday, the Rebels flipped a commitment of a former Auburn commit, Dante Core, a 3-star defensive back in the class of 2025. Committed to Auburn back in May, took his official visit to the Plains over the summer, and considered the number 660 overall prospect, the number 57 corner overall, 5'11", 165 pounds. He's Ole Miss's 6th defensive back commitment, 19th overall commitment for the class of 2025. And one other tidbit I wanted to throw in here, if you guys didn't see this, Andy Staples piece up at On 3 Sports, basically saying, in this day and age we live in now, it's too expensive to fire head coaches. He said, so the assistant coach market is about to go crazy. When you look around and you go, Brent Venables got an extension this offseason, pushed his buyout to about $44.8 million. Texas A&M obviously paying that $76 million buyout to Jimbo Fisher. He brings up the second highest figure, remains the $20.5 million buyout Auburn paid to fire Gus Malzahn following the 2020 season. He's basically saying, look, LSU's not going to buy out Brian Kelly. Florida is sounding like they're not going to buy out Billy Napier. But what you're going to see at a lot of these schools is changes on the assistant coaching staff, new OC, new DC, some fresh air, a fresh life breathed into the program and bring in some new faces. He even cites Florida State. They would owe Mike Norvell $63 million if they fired him after the season. As bad as it is at Florida State, they're going to make assistant coaching changes. That's the easiest way to go rather than paying these head coaches the massive, massive buyout. And I think it's an interesting perspective. And now, we're about to start getting into the revenue sharing where you're going to start paying players out of the pot of what the revenue that the school's making from these big TV deals and everything. You're going to see less and less schools saying we want to pay these massive buyouts. And hopefully some of these schools and the athletic directors start wising up with the agents and stop kowtowing to what the agents want to do. The fact Brent Venables got a contract extension before the season even started, stupid. Who are you bidding against? He's not going anywhere. Just ride out the contract. And Florida's kind of doing that with Billy Napier. They're giving the vote of confidence to help recruiting, but also we're not going to pay massive money to buy you out. Figure this thing out. Get the coordinators that you need in here. Get the recruits you need. That's on you. And let's win some ball games. But constantly buying out coaches. And I saw it this weekend from LSU fans go, oh, Brian Kelly's not the right guy. You can't keep changing coaches every few years. I'm sorry, Auburn, you're stuck with Hugh Freeze. You got to figure this thing out. You're paying Brian Harsin to go away. You paid Gus Malzahn to go away. You got to ride this train out. You got to give coaches a little bit more of a leeway. And by the way, you're in the new SEC where you got Steve Sarkisian at Texas. You got Brent Venables at Oklahoma. You didn't bring in Rutgers and Virginia. These are two power programs that are going to make it even tougher to win games in the SEC. And then you got Shane Beamer in South Carolina on the rise. You got Tennessee and Josh Heupel kicking butt. Look at Kirby. He's got 2 losses already. Bama Kalen DeBoer, year 1, he's got 2 losses already. This league is going to kick your butt left and right. And you're not going to be, like I said this last offseason. I said 8-4 might be the new, hey, that's a damn good year, right? You go 8-4 with an SEC schedule like this. Yeah, that's an accomplishment. I know there's no, you don't get excited about going to the Music City Bowl or the Outback Bowl, but I think there's something to at least be considered. That's pretty damn strong if you can get 8-9 wins this day and age in this conference. It's that tough. Everybody being up on everybody. All right, more Locked On SEC coming your way here in just a second. First, I want to remind you, guys, today's episode presented to you by our friends over at FanDuel. And look, you can tackle the NFL action or college action with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So when you get a hunch in the middle of a game, you can check out the latest stats for your live play-by-play and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. You get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's at FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Like we always tell you guys, all the college games up there as well. Get in on some of those SEC lines up there. It is at FanDuel.com. Go check them out today. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, roll along here. Locked on SEC. Just a couple other stories and tidbits we want to get into before we call it a show. Over at Georgia, SEC Nation picks a different SEC school to go visit each and every week for SEC Week 12. The crew will head to Athens, Georgia for the Georgia and Tennessee game. Obviously, college game day going as well. But this will be the third weekend in a row Georgia is featured on the slate. Week 10, they were in Jacksonville for the Florida-Georgia rivalry. Last weekend, they went to Oxford for the Georgia-Ole Miss game. Tennessee has only been the featured matchup once this year when the show was in Knoxville for their game against Alabama. The Vols made 4 appearances on the show last year. Crew last traveled to Athens October of last year when the Bulldogs dominated the Kentucky Wildcats. But this rivalry has been one-sided lately. Bulldogs have won 7 in a row against Tennessee. The Vols' last win against them came in 2016. Last year's meeting, Georgia won 38-10 in Knoxville. This will be a big one. Sanford Stadium, Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern. Going to be a fun one. By the way, the SEC also announced kickoff times and their TV schedule for the Week 13 game. So this is not this weekend. This is next weekend. We got to get through SEC Week 12. But SEC Week 13, it'll be Ole Miss at Florida in the early slot, 11 a.m. Central, noon Eastern. UMass at Georgia. UTEP at Tennessee. Blah. Kentucky at Texas. We'll be at that game, 2:30 Central in Austin on ABC. We'll see if Mark Stoops can rally the troops one more time to play strong defensively and, I don't know, find an offense. Also in the afternoon, La Tech at Arkansas, Wofford at South Carolina. Good Lord. Get some of these cupcakes out of here. Then in the afternoon, 3:15 Central, it'll be Mizzou at Mississippi State. Big one for Mizzou as they try to finish winning out. Alabama at Oklahoma will be the nightcap on 6:30 Central on ABC. See if Oklahoma can get that defense up and inspired one more time. Ruin Alabama's championship hopes. They can hand them a loss. And then the other 2 evening games, A&M at Auburn. Should be a fun one. And then Vanderbilt at LSU, a sneaky one with Diego Pavia and Vandy kind of grounded and coming back down to earth these last couple weeks. Big one there for LSU to finish out strong. All right, before we get out of here and call the show, quick basketball note. Todd Golden, if you guys missed this story, Florida issued a statement regarding their head basketball coach, Todd Golden. On Friday, it was reported that Golden was being accused by an undefined number of women for sexual harassment and repeated instances of stalking. Golden addressed the report on Saturday in a statement, said he was speaking with an attorney about a defamation suit. Sunday night, Florida issued a brief statement confirming Golden's status to begin the week, saying his status as the head coach had not changed, and Florida was set to host Grambling in a non-conference matchup last night. Well, he received applause and cheers when he was introduced Monday night ahead of their tip-off against Grambling. Like we said, it was their first game since that bombshell story dropped by the student newspaper. The Independent Florida Alligator revealed a Title IX complaint regarding those alleged instances of sexual harassment and stalking by Florida students by the Gator head coach. Florida beat reporters in Gainesville recorded the moment. He was announced over the PA and got applause. So we'll see what happens with this. Again, his statement did not include a denial, but referenced potential legal action for defamation. So it's one of those things. If you're a Florida fan, you stand by him and say these are just allegations until something's proven, but not a great look either way. Man, Florida, what's going on with Like, can they have just a normal coach doing good things over there? All right, thank you guys for making the Locked On SEC your first listen every day. Shout out to everydayers. Keep coming back and checking us out. And hey, for your second listen, check out some of our other great podcasts. We have Locked On Bama, Luke Robinson, Jimmy Stein do a great job. Watched their show yesterday, breaking the whole aftermath of their win, Alabama's win over LSU. Our buddy Matt Moscona does Locked On LSU. If you want to check that out and see what he had to say about the state of the LSU program. That is going to do it for this edition of Locked On SEC. You guys have a great day. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Come on back and see us.